injunction filed to prevent Barbudans voting on the mainland in upcoming elections in Antigua and Barbuda. And in sport, a batting legend says West Indies have no choice but to qualify for the ICC World Cup next year. I'm Ricardo Roberts, and this is Caribbean in 10 for Tuesday, February 27th. I'll be back with the details after the break.
Join Caribbean Passport as we touch down for Trinidad and Tobago's Carnival with fantastic costumes, soca music, and a few iconic characters all in the mix. We also look ahead at what's happening in sunny Barbados. All this and more coming up next on this station.
A film based on the songs of reggae king Bob Marley is in the works. According to Variety magazine, Universal Music Group's Polygram Entertainment and the 20th Century Fox Animation are behind the project. However, no timeline was given. Described as an animated musical love letter to the late Marley's legendary music and to the people of Jamaica, the yet-to-be-titled film is being written and produced by American writer and television producer Kenya Barris.
The Barbuda People's Movement, the main opposition party in Antigua's sister isle, has filed an injunction to prevent the Electoral Commission from moving forward with plans to have residents cast their ballots in Antigua in the March 21st vote. The injunction was filed in the High Court today by BPM attorney Charles Worth Tabor. The injunction calls for all preparations for Barbuda polling to be put on hold until the matter can be heard by a judge. The decision that Barbudans would vote on the mainland was announced by Commission Chairman Nathaniel Paddy James last week. But the BPM's political leader Trevor Walker tells CMC News that the law does not give the Electoral Commission the right to vote or to move voting for Barbudans.
Well, we feel that that decision was concocted, and I make no apologies with that. I've met persons on the road in Antigua saying, oh, we're going to win the polls because you all have to vote here and there's more control of the main Antigua Labour Party and influence with them on the Barbudans. So we feel it's concocted, and we're of the view that the law does not give them that right to move the poll over here. We're of the view that Section 35 of the Representation of the People Act clearly states that the only way that can be done is if there are special circumstances that exist.
Barbados's Chief Justice Sir Marston Gibson has ruled that Commonwealth citizens who meet the requirements under the Representation of the People Act have a right to vote in the island. He made that declaration in a case in which 4 CARICOM nationals living in Barbados for more than a decade had challenged their exclusion from the voters list. St. Lucian-born academic Professor Eddie Ventos, Grenadian Shireen Maslin Tulloch, Jamaican Michelle Russell, and Montserratian Sharon Edgecombe Miller wanted their names on the list in time for the next general election, constitutionally due later this year. The Electoral and Boundaries Commission, the EBC, said they could not because they did not have permanent residency, immigrant status, or citizenship. But in his ruling yesterday, the Chief Justice pointed out that the Representation of the People's Act states that the only requirements for a Commonwealth citizen to vote in Barbados were for that a person to be resident for 3 years and live in the constituency in which they want to vote for 3 months. The Chief Justice ordered that Ventos, who had filed a separate suit from the other 3, should be registered with dispatch as he had met all the requirements. The other applicants met all the requirements but did not file the necessary application form at the electoral office, but their lawyer said they would now do so. Over in Trinidad and Tobago now, the state will have to pay a woman who was detained earlier this month in connection with an alleged terror plot to disrupt Carnival. That's because High Court Judge Frank C. Prasad has ruled that the police failed to justify keeping Alicia Thomas for almost 6 days. CNC3's Vashi Tawari Rupnarayan has more.
The state was ordered to pay Thomas's legal costs in filing a writ of habeas corpus when, while in police custody for over 3 days, her attorney sought to challenge the legality of her detention. Thomas and her husband Adele Mansano were jointly held, but hours before the hearing of the writ, officers charged the duo with possession of a firearm component. Their attorneys then challenged that the police only charged the couple because of the legal action. On Monday, in ruling that Thomas's fee of $6,100 be borne by the state, Justice Sibasad ruled that investigators from the Police Service Special Branch failed to justify why they did not charge Thomas for the kit shortly after it was recovered. Sibasad noted that terror threats were not trivial, acknowledging investigations into terrorism are complex and cannot be completed in a short period of time. He said a 48-hour detention period was fair and additional time could be justified depending on the circumstances. He concluded saying, quote, "The authorities are obligated to treat the information and intelligence received and conduct a thorough investigation. Ultimately, the rights of all citizens have to be protected," end quote.
Stay with us. Your Midday Sport is next. Baton legend Brian Charles Lara believes two-time former ICC World Cup champions West Indies have no choice but to qualify for the showpiece in England next year. Now, the Caribbean side won the first two World Cups in 1975 and 1979 under iconic Clive Lloyd and also reached the final of the 1983 edition before losing to India. Now, Lara, who led the Windies at the 1999 and 2007 editions, said their prestigious history in the competition underlined the urgency to qualify. Lara told the Melbourne Age on Monday, and he said, quote, "We have a very good record in the Champions Trophy and we didn't have the opportunity to play. The World Cup is a different story, obviously. It is something much more important. History in that particular tournament is very strong, especially in the early part of it, the first 3 or 4 World Cups. It's a situation where I think the boys have no choice. We have to pull it through. It is set up in such a way that we were out of that place, so we have to qualify, but it doesn't mean that we can't get there. We have to get there," end quote. West Indies, led by all-rounder Jason Holder, will open their qualification campaign on March 6th when they face ICC World Cricket League Division II winners United Arab Emirates in Group A. The top 3 from each group will advance to the Super Sixes, where each team will play 3 matches against sides they did not meet in the preliminaries. And West Indies A were bundled out on the opening day of the 3rd test against England Lions in North Sound, Antigua last night. England was left trailing by 216 runs as they ended the day's play on 20 without loss. Earlier, Lions were dismissed the hosts on 236 with top scorer Shamar Brooks hammering a superb innings of 63. And we get more of that story in our major newscast at 6:30. That's Caribbean in 10. Good afternoon.